Once upon a time, back in the old days of game trailers, not super old, a man named Ryan Stevens created a show called The Depths.
Hey, Orion.
Which is named after a area in Demon Souls?
Dark Souls.
Dark Souls. To talk about Dark Souls, because all anyone did at Game Trailers in that era was talk about Dark Souls. And all we do now...
That era never really ended.
Yeah, and all we do now is talk about Bloodborne. So this is the Return of the Depths. Spoiler alert, everybody that's watching this at home. If you have not, I guess, beat Bloodborne at least once. Or you just don't care about spoilers.
We're going to spoil stuff.
We're going to talk about everything.
Yeah, this is us just finally getting this out of our system, really exploring everything. I'm curious to have this conversation because I'm sure there's like a ton of stuff that I haven't learned. I looked up to make sure I've been onto all the areas, I've been to all the areas, and then my last thing is to make sure I've done all the bosses. So just get the big list of bosses, cross them all off, and then if I see some crazy name on there that I don't recognize, look it up and be like, how do I get to that
all
boss?
All the game bosses, or are you actually going to try to do all the Chalice bosses?
All the game bosses. Yeah, they might be Chalice bosses.
Who'd you miss?
I don't know. There's two bosses I haven't beaten. There's one with like the crazy laser blasts. The
choir.
The guy, the daughter of the cosmos.
Oh, yeah, she's cool.
You haven't been to the choir.
You gotta go to the choir, dog.
I think I've been in the choir. Yeah, I fought the big alien thing, like the little alien bubble-headed guys that all get together, and then you gotta like smash the window open, and then then you go fight the laser dude. That's where the choir is. Yeah.
Okay.
I love How do you dodge them lasers?
You gotta roll.
You gotta roll.
I'm rolling, and he's tagging me while I'm rolling. Like,
quick step left. Just non-stop. Just hit circle.
While I'm locked on.
You can pretty much beat every boss in that game with quick step left.
Uh-huh.
If you can master the quick step left.
Pretty much every... One or two bosses might be quick step right.
Right. They gotta mix it up.
Yeah, you gotta mix it up.
So if you want structure in your Game Trailers videos, seek elsewhere. Yeah, this is really just going to be an open-ended conversation. But hopefully I'll try, because I am a virgin to the Souls series. This is my first... I did play Dark Souls 2 like on a whim, for our live, streaming, but did not think I was going to love Bloodborne as much as I did. And I loved it. I'm obsessed with it. I'm going to go home tonight, and it's the game I'm going to pop in.
Now that you've kind of broken through with Bloodborne, maybe once you get a little time to let that settle, do you think you'll go back to any of the other Souls games?
Nope.
Okay.
Because
probably the right move.
I think I would tolerate those games more, and I'm actually curious to see like how the gameplay differs, how the combat differs especially. I know shields are like a big deal in the older games, and they just kind of like threw that away with this one. But it's really this world. It's just the gothic aesthetic that I really dig. That just totally fits into everything. And just graphically, I bet it's a huge bummer. Like, well, I know Scholar of the First Sin, the next-gen upgrade just happened, but so tough to go away from this game, which is like one of the most gorgeous games in this next-gen that we've gotten.
As a fan of all of them, I agree with Brandon Jones. Going back to Dark Souls would be a tough act, just because of the world, Victorian... Gothic, it's just a cool place to mess around.
I love the world. Like the Lovecraftian air of it is so right up my alley. Also though, just every Souls game is more and more refined than each one. Yeah. And this one, I just love it. The speed, how well everything works together, it's so good. It's so streamlined.
It's rare for me that there's a game I really, really enjoy that like I beat and I'm totally finished with, and then still houses so much stuff that I never saw, like full boss fights that I missed. Like that's very, very rare that I'll like play an RPG or like an action RPG and just completely miss boss fights. So I have a topic that I'm curious to bring up. The stones that you find in the game that are notes left by other players is an interesting concept. There's really not. Is there any other game that does that?
Dark Souls.
Demon Souls.
Right, any other game other than Souls.
They started like that I can remember.
That you can leave notes for people. Yeah. I was initially kind of turned off by it because I do enjoy the aesthetic of the game so much, and it kind of spoiled it that like all this stuff was popping up out of the ground, and that would kind of change the environment. Interesting. I wonder how they police those. Because like I've never seemed to come across any one of those that isn't carefully constructed to sound like the language of the game.
Because it's all you pick it from the list.
What do you mean you pick it from the list?
You can't freely write.
You can't just write whatever you want. It's a list of options.
Oh, Have you never written one? No, I've never left one. Yeah.
No, you have 2 slots, and you can say like wondrous blank, and then fill in the second part of like friend or whatever, or like the sky and the cosmos are one. Is one that you can just leave. Also, fun fact, you can leave. You'll see sometimes a blue silhouette of someone doing a gesture. You can add a gesture on top of the message.
Oh, okay.
So some of them have that. Yeah, it's like a bottom. It's on the bottom.
Because there are some that are built into the game, correct?
Yeah,
there are some that like the developers left.
If they have the little, there's like a shining little point on it. It's part of the game.
It's also a subtle little thing, but in the Souls games, Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, messages were these scorched orange like symbols, and it was always very, very obvious, and I always noticed it. But in Bloodborne, if I wasn't interested in reading messages, because they were just kind of these bubbles that were kind of sunk into the earth, I just could kind of ignore it. Like it didn't. I wasn't even aware of it if I didn't want to pay attention.
There are a lot of times where I don't even see them.
Did you guys feel like there was less trolling? Like the Bloodborne community was way nicer than the Souls? Because I used to get trolled so many times.
With messages, yes, but with PvP, no. PvP in this game is BM all the time.
I didn't see any notes that were like, come this way, like item down there.
I see a lot of like, take a step forward or like try jumping.
See, I had an opposite experience. I definitely did see, I think I saw 3 or 4 messages where people wanted me to jump off of a
Those are my favorite.
I just think we know better now.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah,
playing the game. I'm like, no, I'm not
That's
doing
true.
that.
But the funny thing is sometimes it's real. Like sometimes you should take a step forward because you'll find a secret area. So that's the dice roll, It's like sometimes you're like, wait, are they trolling or is this real?
And that sort of touches upon something that makes all of these games so wonderful. Is I often get asked the question, normally when things are obscure or complex in video games, supposedly needlessly so, we criticize them. We say this should have been easier to understand or this is arbitrarily difficult. But I feel like in other games, when things are obtuse, the payoff isn't there. Like you figure it out and you're like, oh, that was a giant waste of time. Whereas in Bloodborne, you may not figure something out, but when you do, it's this huge, awesome moment. So I think to me that's the difference, is like you finally figure out what this item does and it actually teleports you to a freaking castle.
And like the coolest thing too about Bloodborne is not only is it like that, like getting the tonsil stone and going to Nightmare Frontier and like stuff like that where it unlocks big story and area things and secret bosses that you've never seen. Also just game mechanics wise, like when I found out the other day that having the hand lantern equipped
that blew my
slows
mind.
down stamina regeneration by like a full second.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. I'm like, okay, never using that item again because I have the Hunter rune, speeds up your stamina regen. Also, now I have from Chalice Dungeons the anti-clockwise metamorphosis that does 20% more stamina. They stack. I have 20% stamina and 15% stamina. I have so much stamina right now. It's absurd. It's awesome. But oh man, so much stuff. Like gameplay-wise, you just discover, you're like, oh my god, that changes everything.
That's crazy.
So PvP, I've been invaded twice. It was my understanding that if you ring the bell, you're either inviting someone to help you or to hurt you.
No.
But how does PvP work as far as like antagonists?
So Ian's correct. All the bells work differently. If you ring the sinister bell, you are inviting somebody to come in and invade you and engage in PvP.
And also you're trying to invade someone who else has the
bell.
Correct.
So like if there's a bell maiden in a world already, like some areas in the game, like Nightmare of Mensis, for example.
Not that many though.
There aren't very many. It's like Nightmare of Mensis, Unseen Village, and like 1 or 2 others that have a sinister bell ringing maiden. Then if their bell is ringing, you can enter their world, or if someone else has rung the sinister bell. But fun thing too, if you have the Hunter Oath equipped, there is a 5% chance that you'll invade if you're trying to co-op with somebody who either has no oath equipped or the Hunter Oath equipped. You will come into their game as an adversary, and you'll be purple. And you'll have to try to kill them. Brad and I were co-oping, and it happened, and he was like purple in my world, and we could have fought because we both had the Hunter rune. So like you're not even safe trying to co-op. Also, if you co-op above level 30, it summons. If you successfully bring someone into your world by using the beckoning bell, a sinister bell ringing woman will appear, thus increasing your chance of getting invaded while someone is helping you in your world.
Can you see our running time on the monitor over there?
Yeah, it is a description. It took a minute.
Just checking. I just realized there's
It's all very complicated.
Right. This will be an extended video, but we don't want to be. It's like, oh, it's 7.
Can we talk about
7
bosses compared to the Soul series?
Sure. I don't have much to talk about with that, but anybody want?
I just feel like a ton of Souls bosses were like big, lumbering, like. you know, circle around kind of thing, or even if you're like dual wield. And I felt like the Bloodborne bosses were all considerably varied.
Frenetic. Frantic.
Yeah, there's a lot of variety in the boss fights. I feel like this. Certainly more than Dark Souls 2.
Yeah.
Dark Souls 2 is mostly all humanoids, pretty much.
Dark Souls 2 had pretty easy bosses.
I don't know if I would say I agree with you. I think you're right, but I wouldn't necessarily say that Bloodborne has my absolute favorite bosses of the series. But to me, most of the bosses were a highlight for sure.
Gascoigne.
Gascoigne
is like my top 3 now for that entire Souls series.
Some of the best fights in Bloodborne are the other hunter fights. Like they're so intense.
Yeah.
I think
like Henrik. Yeah. Or the guy at the end of Eileen the Crow.
Oh, the
that
Great Cathedral.
Fight is nigh impossible. That fight is so hard.
I think one of the things about the Bloodborne bosses that I do like over the Souls bosses is some of the Souls bosses, I feel like even if you know how to play the game really, really well, they just have things about them that are kind of not cheap, but put you at a disadvantage. Whereas I feel like in Bloodborne, there would be times where I'm like, how am I going to beat this thing? And once I got better with the game, the fight felt very, very even. And it was just like, I feel like the bosses did a better job of telling me, like, no, this is the pace of Bloodborne. And if you can get that, these guys aren't that big of a deal. Like, the final boss is a perfect example. If you
Which final boss?
The not the true ending final boss, but the...
Gehrman?
Yeah. Yep.
Spoilers are allowed.
Yeah, we're talking about everything. Don't hide it.
Sorry. Yeah, I get turned on to like no spoilers ever, but yes. If you've been practicing parrying, that fight is super, super, super easy. You know,
also,
if you've been good at dodging.
Because I use the Blade of Mercy a lot. And I occasionally will throw in Ludwig's Holy Blade or whatever.
Ludwig's Holy OP Blade.
But the Blade of Mercy is my thing, so I don't use my gun very often. I use the spells and the Blade of Mercy. So I'm not super used to parrying. I can do it like against some of the bosses you pretty much have to, like Martyr Logarius or whatever.
Yeah.
But against Gehrman, you can also just the time that I beat him, I just threw caution to the wind and super aggro just like rushed him with the Blade of Mercy.
Yeah.
It worked out. Like, it was all right. You beat their super armor and you can beast mode or beast roar them.
Another question. The bosses for me just had more personality and more context. Like each boss I fought in Bloodborne was like Ornstein and Smo in the sense that I wanted to know more about their past. It felt like they existed in this world. It wasn't just like throwing a boss at you to throw a boss at you. I feel like every boss in Bloodborne had so much meaning and so much backstory without really giving it to you. Like the Vicar Amelia praying in the church. It's just like each boss I fought just really built the world of Bloodborne.
My favorite thing about all the Souls games is that the best bosses are the tragic figures, like in Demons, Maiden Estria, and they're so tragic and sad, and pretty much every boss in Bloodborne is like, when you realize what the deal is, aside from a few of them, like not so much the Celestial Emissary and stuff like that, but the more humanoid ones, the clerics, Father Gascoigne, you're just like, oh God, this is so sad.
You were shaking your head. Do you disagree?
It's not that I don't disagree. It was just a statement that made me think, and I was just like reflecting on the bosses. Like, do I really feel that way? And I think you're right. I think that a lot of the bosses do have meaning. Like when I think about Dark Souls 1 and Demon Souls, though, I also think many of those.
These
bosses
games are steeped with lore across the board. You know.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I wasn't really I wasn't dying to jump into the world of the Souls games, was it felt to me like a video game. It felt like, okay, I'm going up a traditional Zelda castle. It's just like really dark and really difficult. Where in this game, it seemed like almost every area I'm going to feels lived in, albeit very, Toontown, like rooftops are all slanted and everything. But like, to me emotionally, one of my favorite moments was one of the very first window, I think it's the first window NPC that you can talk to, who's coughing and he's sick, you know, and you keep going back to him and he gives you an item and then, you know, he just tells you like, no, I'm fine. And I think one of the last things he actually says is it's just a cough.
Yeah.
And then I think it's after you fight the spider, and then when the blood moon comes up, you go back and the windows burst open and there's just this werewolf like wandering around there.
Immediately rushes you.
Cool.
Yeah,
super cool. And when I saw him, I was like, oh, there's gonna be werewolves in the area now. Cool. And I killed him and was just like, okay. And it was moving along. And it was like a minute later. I'm like, oh no,
you killed him.
I didn't realize it for a while. You get a good rune from him too.
Or like just people that you would talk to that would say something, you know, like, oh, get away from me, and it's the hunt. I'm not going outside. And then you go back to that window later, and it's just a groan or silence. You know, like that is awesome.
The one thing I didn't know is that Patch is the spider who gives you the tonsil stone.
Who I slaughtered.
Oh, so that's a shame because he's hilarious, and apparently he shows up as a super rare shop in some of the Chalice dungeons. Certain kinds of Chalice dungeons, it gets pretty crazy. But like, I didn't know that he replaces every NPC at a certain point in the game until you get the tonsil stone, and then it goes back to who it was. So it's like you have to get that tonsil stone. That's cool.
I actually think you bring up a super good point, Brandon. The strength of Bloodborne's worlds that the Souls games don't have is once you beat Rom the Vacuum Spider and the world changes and just the people getting sicker over time and disappearing, the world feels more alive, I think, because of that than any of the Souls games, because the way things change in the Souls games is it doesn't feel quite as natural. Like you might have somebody that goes in and kills all of the people, but it feels like a triggered event, whereas in Bloodborne it really does feel like there's this sickness that's worsening over time, and it's happening everywhere. It's not just this one spot, you know?
Even on a more basic level, just the very beginning of the game when a group of enemies is wandering around and they're burning people at the stake versus, you know, Souls where they're standing guard in their area or they're kind of just like moving around back and forth.
They're standing and waiting for you.
Love Charnel, you have the witches that are just clearly like on something, you know, like all tripping, or like people that are crying, or like you go into the castle, what is it?
Canehurst.
You go into Canehurst and they're scrubbing the floor, you know, or like...
And you don't have to kill those guys, which I think is really cool.
The whole concept of optional bosses, you know, like beating the game the first time and then going back through the second time and realizing like, whoa, didn't have to fight you, didn't have to fight you. Like,
you don't have to fight, like on New Game Plus, I realized
you
don't have to fight
the game.
You don't have to do like a lot. You don't have to kill the witch if you already have the rune thing. You don't have to fight Bloodstarved Beast.
Yeah.
You don't have to fight so many different things. It's crazy.
Cleric
Beast, you don't have to. And
you don't
also
have to fight,
like
amygdala or amygdala. I totally missed that whole area. The frontier, I completely skipped that entire area.
That area is it's complicated to get to. You have to like intentionally get yourself screwed over. If you get there later in the game, I would have just breezed by it if I hadn't figured out like how to actually get caught, because I got caught and killed by that thing before having the tonsil stone. Before I understood what the hell was going on with the lesser amygdalas.
Yeah.
So like I would never have gone in there because the next time I went to that place, the door was open, so I just ran by.
I left the university expecting to go to Mensis and be like, okay, I'm gonna wrap up the game. Then I was like, where the hell am I? And I actually got frustrated because I couldn't figure out how to get back to Mensis. And it was just another door out of the university.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even just the university itself, like actually going into this place and seeing these guys with their school caps on, you know, and like having them all, like you go into the auditorium where they'd have presentations and like they're all like sitting in the chairs.
Cool moment when you go into because you go into the first one and there's like nobody in there, and then you go into the second one, there's like 40 students, and you're like, oh shit. Yeah. You're like, whoa. Yeah, cool moment.
Music's great.
It's amazing.
It's like really prominent in some places and just like really subdued in others. They do silence really well. Love how just echoey everything is. I thought that was really kind of bizarre when I'd see a lot of clips from Dark Souls 1 and 2 where I'm just like, why is the sound so weird? And like in this, it really fit, you know, that there's one door in the Forbidden Woods where you go behind this shack. They have like a bunch of bodies hanging from this like railing, and then there's this wooden house, and you have to like go up around a path, and this woman just groans. That's it. It's like, and you go by the window and you click it, and this woman just groans, and like makes my hair stand up every time. I could do it right now. I could literally go home after heard it 40 times and listen to it, and it's like that is so creepy. It reminds me of PT a little bit, like the sound design of this woman, this amazing woman, maybe even more than one woman who did the voice of Lisa. it's like that is such a fine line between sounding really scary and sounding really stupid. And it's the kind of thing that I imagine you got to do like 50 takes and then just listen to each one of them and be like, that's it. That's the special sauce.
That's the crazy thing with Bloodborne too. The voice acting across the board is so good. And like realizing, I can't remember who I was talking about, but I didn't realize that Yosefka and Imposter Yosefka are actually two different voice actors. Because when you first talk to her, she's really nice and sweet, and then when she starts saying like, "Oh yeah, send me people here, and I'll take care of them," and you just don't trust her for some reason, it's a completely different actor. You're just like, "Oh, you killed the other one, and now you're a crazy psycho replacement that's got demons in your mind."
Wait, that happened?
Yeah, dude.
Yes.
This is what I mean. Finished this game 3 times. And you're still blowing my mind with stuff.
Well,
like, I didn't even know that happened.
I showed him a friend of mine the last area of the game, and there's the bride that's looking up, at the where the wet nurse is. And I was like, okay, well then there's her, and he's like, wow, she's really cool, and like moved the camera around to be like right in front of her, and then was like heading towards the elevator, and he's like, what happens if you hit her? I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna find out.
If you hit her, she goes away.
I don't know.
She just disappears after you. If you beat the wet nurse and go back there, she like looks down and vanishes. Because I don't think she's actually there. I think it's like a projection. Because she's at the bottom. I haven't reached it yet. Huber and Brad have fought her, but she's the final boss of the Chalice dungeons.
Oh,
Yarnum,
really
Queen
fun.
of Thumeru.
Really good fight.
Fun fight.
So the place is called Yarnum, and she's called
Yarnum? Called Yarnum, and they named the town after Yarnum. That's the craziest thing. Because like the game starts as like Castlevania, like you think it's just werewolves and stuff like that, and then it just goes hard Lovecraft, and you realize. I was watching a really cool video that talked about this, like the love on YouTube, the Lovecraftian influences and stuff. And he brought up a really good point, is that in a lot of Lovecraft lore, because I've read a lot of the books, I like it. I mean, he was racist, but the stories are still kind of cool. But like, it's really unfortunate actually. But
don't you hate that?
Yeah,
like,
it's a drag. It's like Orson Scott Card when you find out he's a bigot. And I'm like, but you wrote Ender.
Yeah,
it makes no sense. But anyway. The guy raised a really cool point in that in most Lovecraft stuff, it's the exception to the rule. It's like Innsmouth is obsessed with these crazy fish monsters. They're the only ones. But this is like, it's the established religion. Like everybody in this game was like, oh yeah, totally, the celestial blood, like the old blood. We're all infusing ourselves with this blood. We're all in on this. We have monuments to Amygdala and all these monsters, all these celestial beings, these great old ones, in a cathedral. Like the grand cathedral is dedicated to these great old ones, and like that's such a crazy like idea that everybody's in on it. And the hunt is because everyone, like the clerics and the healing church and stuff, everyone's so spliced with this blood that yearly they have to, maybe even more than yearly, they have to like quell the like messed up. It's sort of like BioShock actually, the splintered people. Like it's crazy that you're the exception, you're the only one. And you're also crazy.
So what's the lore? No. So what's the lore behind the hunters? Why are they there? Why aren't they helping? Like, what's their objective?
The hunters are there to. I think initially, German and Lawrence, who splintered from Willem in the healing church to create like the sort of separate thing.
They created the healing church.
He created the healing church, and Willem stayed with Bergenworth, right? The students, the university. They started hunting the beasts. Like one camp was like, we have to fight the great old ones to evolve, basically, and the other one was like, we shouldn't. But basically, what that just means is like sometimes people go beast mode and you have to kill them. Like it kind of went from there, more or less, and that right.
Kind of. I mean, I don't think there was a camp necessarily like about fighting them, like fighting the Great Ones. It was about like they were separate. Like Master Laguerre or whatever was all about finding more about the Great Ones through like essentially putting more eyes inside of his brain.
That's Willem.
Different approaches to reaching the Great Ones. They all had it. Some thought they could get it through the blood.
Somebody wants to fight the Great Old Ones because in, I think, second floor of the lecture hall, there's a message that you can find that says like. It says something like "Hunt the Great Old Ones." It says it twice. It's like "Hunt the Great Old Ones."
There's so many little factions in that universe.
So, it's very strange.
And everyone has their own motives.
But like, long story short, the Healing Church was trying to open up a gateway to the celestial realm to contact these great old ones, and they sort of did it. and they were using the great old one, basically Cthulhu blood, more or less, to evolve, like force human evolution. But what happened was everyone started turning into these crazy beast monsters, and that's why most of the bad guys are high-ranking members of the church, like Cleric Beast and Vicar Amelia, and all these people that are like basically just blood-tinged to hell, and they all went crazy, so you're here to kill them. The one thing about the story that I don't still understand is the dream, like, because the dream is it's a carbon copy of the old workshop, so I don't really understand, because like some of the hunters, like Eileen says it, and dude who's on top of the building in Old Yarnum, whose name I can't remember right now, but who is friends with the beast, because he's saying, you know, you're just murdering people, right? They're all people. These aren't beasts. They're people. They're human beings. You're killing them all. Don't do it. Because if you talk to him without him seeing you, he'll speak to you. But he says, I don't dream anymore. You still dream, you know? So like hunters that have been around long enough or alive long enough don't dream anymore for whatever reason. And Germán is somehow in charge of this dream because he can wake you up in one of the endings if you choose to.
Yeah, but what's Miko Lash's role in all of this?
Yeah, because when you kill him, he's like, oh, now I'm going to wake up. I'll forget everything. I loved that moment. I loved that moment because he got so whiny about it. He was like, now I'm going to wake up.
He knows the score.
He knows what's up.
Yeah, exactly, he knows what's up.
Yeah. He's the host of the dream. Is that what it is? Host of the nightmare?
Host of the nightmare.
And it's just like,
he's got all the answers.
Yeah. Weird fight, too, because every time I fought him alone, it was super easy.
Yeah.
And then I co-opted in with people, and he hit me with the tentacles and killed me in one shot every time. I was like, what the fuck? He never did that to me before.
Didn't he do something weird with us?
It was really weird.
He glitched out on this one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's the game, though. It's like so crazy, because the first time I fought Daughter of Chaos, she never did the lasers.
Huh.
Really?
And then on New Game Plus, she did it a lot. And I was like, what is happening?
New Game Plus is the first time I'm fighting her.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Have you co-opted at all?
I co-opt. No, I co-opt on GT Live. I co-opt on our live stream. When
I was rushing it.
When you couldn't even kill a cleric beast.
I know. I don't know what my deal was in that. It was a nightmare.
I tried to summon somebody for Amygdala because I was just really struggling with that, and I stood there for like 10-15 minutes, and then was just like, okay, I'll try it myself.
That's another one of those fights. Like on New Game Regular, that fight wasn't that hard to me, and then on New Game Plus, I was just banging my head against a wall forever. It was so weird.
So getting back to the hunters really quick, because that kind of like spawned a whole thing about the healing church. So are they? Because they were like clearly stationed around an area. It's almost like they're defending these spots. And to me, it's like if they are kind of like what I'm doing, it's like, why aren't you moving around or going to other places? Is that just like a nature of it being a video game, or like are they protected of certain areas? Is there like a reason you're facing them in particular areas?
It depends. There's certain hunters for different areas. Like Yarhagul has its own hunters, and they're kind of just hunting around there. Some hunters are kind of doing their own thing, like going rogue, and that's what Eileen is probably rogue also.
She's a hunter of hunters.
Yeah.
I love they have a really long death groan. Yeah. So like you know it's a hunter.
Yeah. Because Eileen is a hunter of hunters. She's the crow one. So she's specifically after blood-addled hunters, like hunters they've gone too beast, basically, and you're trying to kill them. Like some other hunters, like one of the bosses in the Chalice dungeon, I think might be Ludwig, because the madman, he's got Ludwig's sword and Ludwig's rifle. So I'm pretty sure that's him. Stuff like that. So it's just like, I don't know, it's one
of the bosses.
The Chalice dungeons.
In the Thumerian ones?
You have to fight him, I think, getting to Yarnum, but also he's in the lower Hintertomb. Oh, PSA right now. Huge important thing that no one knows about, I feel like. I mean, it's getting more popular now. It's in the guide, too. If you beat lower Hintertomb Chalice, it's not that bad, you get an item called the Short Root Chalice, which you can use at the makeshift altar, the first altar there on the left that you don't know what the hell it's for. That allows you to drop in co-op into anyone's game without having to like if they're in your, I'm pretty sure like if they're in your level area, you can just drop in co-op. So you don't have to play through things twice. Mm-hmm. And you can also drop in adversarially into Sinister Chalices. Huge, very important item that is buried in a Chalice that pretty much you absolutely do not have to do, and most people probably just won't do.
How rare is it to have a game that has so many things hidden like that? Like, isn't that like the exact opposite of popular game design?
Yes.
That you want people to experience everything.
Yeah.
And it's like this and Smash Brothers and what else? I'm trying to think of games where it's just like months later you're finding out stuff. Oh, Indian's gone.
Bathroom break.
Nope. See ya.
Who else does crazy stuff like this? You know, like that's clearly a passion. Like, you know, I wouldn't say like a cockiness, but that, you know, that's clearly somebody who's like, I'm making this game regardless. If we make money on this game, great. You know, if this works well for Sony, fantastic. But like, I am making this because this is the next game that I want to do. I want to take it in this direction, and I'm going to put these things in there and just love, you know, watching people get excited about it. A tangent, but I saw Gary Whitta, who wrote Episode 7 and is writing Rogue One, is seeing people speculate because they had a teaser where they showed like the Death Star on this planet, and like this guy from Ain't It Cool News wrote this like huge expose of like, okay, if the Death Star was this close to the planet, that this would affect the gravitational pull, and Whitta's like, I love this.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not gonna say if this guy's right or wrong. I'm just so fascinated that he's that into this.
Yeah.
And he's gonna do all of this research.
Refresh my memory. What was the big secret place in Dark Souls 1?
The
Ashley?
Painted World?
Painted World, yeah.
Well, there's that in Ash Lake.
Painted World, same thing. You had to go back to the beginning of the game, get this item, go to a huge painting in an area, and you would go inside the painting, and it was this whole big area.
Well, the Nightmare Frontier that I totally missed in the first game, the first run through of the game, typically if I was playing an RPG, especially something I'm putting like 20, 30 hours into for like one playthrough, and missed it, I'd be really frustrated. But like, what a treat to just go into this area and be like, oh yeah, I've been here. Where the hell am I? Like that just doesn't really happen in games.
It's why I genuinely get extremely frustrated when people say, I don't get why people like this. I don't understand. Because I feel like I play so many games that fall into one of two categories. The first category is I finish it and I go, that's it. I guess I'm going to have to wait for the DLC to see how this wraps up, which is really depressing.
Right.
And then the other one is they're like, look how much stuff we have. We have so much stuff. Come play with all of our stuff. And it's like, yeah, you do have stuff, but it's not that interesting. Like, you just gave me the biggest checklist so you could put on the back of the box that you have the biggest checklist in video games. And that's not Bloodborne, you know what I mean? Like, Bloodborne, everything you do is interesting in a different way. Like, all of the areas are memorable for different reasons. I'm not just going and collecting items, or I'm not just going and killing X number of things. Like, I'm really doing something that matters, and I feel like I'm exploring a world. And
the bosses, the best reward you could possibly have for going in any area or doing anything is giving you a crazy boss to fight.
Yeah, and people, there are people that say, well, you know, it's fine if you like the Souls games, but they're so niche, and it's like, well, you know, Bloodborne sold over 1 million copies. People are clearly responding to this. Maybe you should try to see what clicks with these games.
I think a lot of people did though with Bloodborne.
No,
this
but
time, especially you.
I still feel like there are people out there.
There's definitely people who kind of like snob at it.
Yeah, or they interpret the ones that like this stuff as snobs, and people can be jerks for sure, but these games are offering something that's valuable.
I don't know if it's just when things are popular they get a lot of hate, but I feel like there definitely is. There's been a lot of attacks on Bloodborne, you know, calling it niche and whatnot. When you know, when people make MLB 15 the show that don't like baseball, they're not coming out saying, "Why are you making this baseball game for those people?" When this really it's the same kind of argument.
Really hard batting mechanics. I mean, the thing about it is, like, we're in this world now where every game has constant waypoints and baby handholds you. And this game respects the players, and like, we're in a different world now where people don't want to be respected. They want to be coddled.
Yeah, even
and like, and the thing is, like, I mean, like, I speak a lot of hyperbole all the time about things, especially about the Souls games. But I really do think that From Software, like, for me, they're one of the few companies that is really still making like quality, respectful games that are this kind of experience where it's really so well crafted that it just makes my heart ache because it's so beautiful.
One thing people constantly think of is the game's not going to hold your hand. And like, if people that haven't played Bloodborne associate that almost directly with the difficulty, they're just like, oh, there's mechanics in the game that aren't going to hold your hand. And it's like almost on every single tier of every slice of factor that you can cut out of Bloodborne, that holds true. The story's not going to hold your hand.
Right.
No.
Navigation's not going to hold your hand. You know, like boss fight strategy is not going to hold your hand. What stupid items do that you pick up? You know, like have weird cryptic names and explanations.
And even the controls, like a lot of people criticize the controls as being janky or like not very well made. Like people said that even about the Dark Souls or about the Souls games too. And to me, that's just so funny because I mean I can understand why someone would say that, but to me they're like, these are the only video games with controls that are good.
I laughed at myself. I laugh at myself. You know how L2 is shoot?
Yes.
When I used the hammer two-handed, not until like New Game Plus halfway through did I use the L2 attack two-handed because I kept thinking it was the gun, but I didn't have my gun equipped. So like, I have another attack with this.
That's a really crucial attack for you. Also, like the swing, the side swing.
I understand, like, the whole original Dark Souls Prepare to Die marketing campaign was on one hand really brilliant for them to do. It sort of gave the series this aura that kind of made it interesting to people. Like, oh, I want to see what's so hard about this. I mean, goddamn, like every time a new Souls game's come out, there are a zillion YouTube channels that are like, see how many times I die in this game. And honestly, I'm getting a little bit sick of it because it's like, to me, that is like the least special part of these games. Like, I don't think they're like, I don't even think, honestly, that Bloodborne is really all of that tremendously tough of a game. You just have to realize, like, okay, there's a period of learning. And I think that is actually what's missing from games, is they're so afraid if you don't know everything immediately. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's what I appreciate about Bloodborne, and I think that's what makes it more interesting than other video games, is the game is like, no, we trust that you will figure this out on your own. We really believe in you. And, you know, 20 hours in, I'm still learning stuff. Whereas, you know, there are a lot of games you play and it's just the first 5 minutes, like, yep, here's the game.
And so many games for me personally, like, I'm not speaking for everyone, but for me personally, games that are very tutorial heavy in the beginning of the game, a lot of times I just stop playing those games because I'm like, stop wasting my time. I could be actually playing this game instead of learning how to play this stupid game.
Because odds are I'm going to know half this stuff anyway.
Right,
you know?
I get it. I know how to click a thing. God damn.
Yeah. One of the most emotional moments for me in Bloodborne that I was like really surprised. I'm like, I can't let this affect me, but at the same time I can't not, because this was clearly a connection that I'm having with somebody else who's played this game. My nemesis in that game is Martyr Logarius, man. That fight is tough. I remember I came into work and told Brad, I'm like, I think I'm done with Bloodborne because I don't know what the hell. And it was funny too because he's like, oh, that's optional. I'm like, that boss? And Brad was like, that area really. Yeah. That whole castle that went all the way through and unlocked.
Coolest moment.
That stupid door that you have to go back with the ladder underneath, and you got to like go outside the window and go along. So it took me like an hour and a half to figure out, but it was really cool that I didn't look it up, that I actually was like, because I went up that window and I'm like, well, that's death, I'm not supposed to go there. And then like 45 minutes later I'm like, wait, let me go back out. And I'm like, oh yeah, oh god,
that's good level design.
And so it must have been like the 6th time I finally did it, and then like it was like I gave up, and then like went back in. I'm like, okay, I can do this, and like went in and like played him and like died, and then went back up and was like just about to go through the door, and there was a note, and I clicked on it and it said, don't give up.
Yeah.
Yes. I was like,
don't give up.
Okay. Don't give up.
You know, and it was neat because like I was so ready to, but it's like, here's this guy somewhere in the world, might not even speak English, might be a Japanese player, you know, who knows? That's like, I know you can do it. Yeah. And it was funny, like there were a couple times on Twitter where I'd be like, screw this boss. And like I'd get replies, they're like, I believe in you. You know, it's like there's nothing I can tell you. There's no strategy. Like like boss strategy I actually found most of the time were like useless because they're like, well, you just dodge a lot. It's like that doesn't mean anything to me. It's like you just.
How important is it that you have those highs and those lows? You know, like I think when I first fought the Bloodstarved Beast, I think I fought it like 3 or 4 times. I was like, oh no, like. I gotta review this game, and I know I'm not that far in. And then I walked away. I don't remember what I did. I think I went to lunch, and it's that it gets in your head. It infects you, and you think about it, and you reach this point, just like you did, where you're like, no, I can do this. I can do it. And yeah, there are so many games that just don't give you that low. They don't push back, and so you kind of go through the whole game, and you're like, yeah, it was all right.
How good does it feel being a boss on the first time too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like slam your hand.
Well, especially for me, like one-shotting a guy was like a miracle. Like I'd come into work and literally like stroll by each of your cubicles, being like, I one-shotted Bloodborne Beast, just FYI. Like on New Game Plus, I one-shotted the first 4 bosses.
One shot means something different than what you think it means. One shot means you hit it once.
Right.
And
Well,
it
yeah,
died.
one attempt.
One attempt.
One try.
I call it first try soloed.
Yeah.
First try solo.
But yeah, the coolest thing about Bloodborne is it's so funny because the Souls games, they have this reputation of being super niche, and like I think that because it's so hard, the assumption from people who aren't in on the zeitgeist, as Omar would say, that aren't in the club, you know, I think it does have that, and like the Prepare to Die, I think is partly responsible for this. Yeah. It does have this very like club mentality, like you're not in, you don't know, like you're in the know, right? You know, that's one of the notes. But like the coolest thing is if you actually take a second to like look at the community for Bloodborne and for the Souls games, I would say it's very jolly. Like it's about cooperation, it's about camaraderie, it's about you can do this, it's about don't give up, it's about like, it's not Call of Duty where it's like, oh, you fucking idiot, oh, blah, 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 like, I'm gonna rape your mother, like,
there's
shit like
definitely
that.
stuff like that.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, like, there's trolling and, like, the PvP in Bloodborne, I'm actually pretty disappointed with because in Souls, I mean, maybe there's a spot.
People don't know that.
People don't know it. Maybe
People
there's a
don't
spot in Bloodborne that is an honorable duels area that I just don't know about yet. But like in Souls, the forest was the dishonorable PvP area, and there was the
area.
Outside of Gwen and a few other places like the Kiln of the First Flame was the honorable duel area where you bow first, no healing allowed. It's just skill v skill. You have to win, you know. And this game is just like, oh, blood vial, blood vial, blood vial, blood vial.
I think it's
like,
too early to make like a permanent
guys.
call on that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it gets better because so far it's just annoying. But
well, you got people playing who like people are going through their first run through. You know,
they don't.
Maybe they never played.
Souls.
No, true. Yeah,
I'm hoping there's an arena.
But there's a protocol.
Chalice dungeon.
If you bow at the beginning of a PvP fight, it means no healing. Honorable
yes.
bow. That's the rule.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I won't heal until someone else heals first.
But if someone heals,
and I'm like,
then you
okay.
kill them, it's even better.
Yeah, oh yeah. Like, if they're cheating.
Then you gesture in front of them.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people may disagree with this, but to me, the Souls series is kind of a teach a man to fish series as opposed, you know, because in a way, I sort of appreciate a little bit of hostility. I'm not saying games shouldn't try to include more people. I'm not saying they should.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they should be antagonistic. But you know, if there is a little bit of a club mentality, I don't. It's just all about perception. It's not that you can't join this club. It's like, hey man, all the stuff is here. Figure it out. You know. And to me, I would much rather have that than just being like, yeah, we're gonna make sure you fit in. You know, like that's life. Like the only things worth doing in life, like the only time I get excited about something is when I have to work a little bit for it. You know.
I mean, this like Bloodborne is how you get a show like The Nick, and other games are how you get shows like The Walking Dead.
I want to see where you're going with this.
Lowest common denominator, like bullshit garbage for everybody. That's terrible.
Oh God.
Whereas actually thoughtful quality, you know. Product. Never mind.
How are we doing on time, Ian?
42 minutes.
42?
Yeah. Right.
So I want to steer things. I don't know if this is a concluding topic, but something that Huber, I know you're going to be a fan of.
Okay.
I love horror games. I like to be scared in games, and I was really surprised how spooky this game was, and in ways that I wasn't expecting. Like there are moments. I love that I was actually on my second playthrough, like going through places that I haven't been, and one was like, it's not the nursery, it's not the choir, it's like what's another word, like the kindergarten or like
the orphanage.
The orphanage. There we go.
That's part of the choir. Yeah.
And so in order to get to the orphanage, there's like, well, you got to get around this one building, and then if you have a long weapon, you can actually kill this thing through the doorway, and it's next to that window where the wolf jumps out of. And I'm like, what wolf? Like right at that moment, of course, like classic Resident Evil style.
With the glowing eyes.
But like,
when the one jumps on the chandelier.
Yeah. The chandelier is so good.
But like one moment that really stuck with me was the Bloodstarved Beast. Like there's no game I have ever played that introduces bosses the way this does. It fascinates me that when you go back to fight bosses, they just bum rush you. Like sometimes it does this kind of visual, does a visual transition when you like move into that area, and like they don't care. Like I don't care if you're still phasing through that.
Like, they're coming.
dream fog or whatever.
The best thing is in the Souls games, I think maybe not 100%, but almost all the bosses you go through fog gates to get to them the first time. In Bloodborne, there's no fog gate the first time you hit the boss.
Yeah.
So you walk into a boss sometimes without knowing.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh crap, it's a boss fight. I've got 100,000 souls on me right now.
And just the way they set up the anticipation of that. Like seeing Jerkface 42 has entered your game and being like, where is he? And we're seeing like that health bar come up and just like, oh, okay, where's the and that's what happened with me with Bloodstarved Beast. I saw that bar come up and kind of looked ahead and it's like, is that guy? And he slowly turns around and then kind of starts like marching towards me.
Yeah.
And it's just like a lot of enemies in the game kind of have that thing where like they'll see you and then just kind of like slowly make their way over to you. And it's interesting. It's like, I guess I should just run up and fight it, but at the same time, it's like I'm intimidated by it and I don't want to fight it. But like
each other up.
I guess I should just get this over with, and just like run up and.
Well, that's the best thing about
going.
this game is that it teaches you in such an elegant way through the mechanics and through like everything. Everything lends to the idea, like inside and everything lends to the idea that just don't be afraid, conquer that, and go for it. Like the more aggressive you are, the safer you often are.
And that's such a crazy random idea. Times, just like walking through, random enemy pops out, and for whatever reason, my guard is down. I'm just like, oh!
Yeah, Bergenworth killed me the first time I went through because I was like, oh god, finally a new area, and then that bug like on the other side, and I'm just like, Bloodborne.
So, I have a tremendous I will freak out in unnatural ways when it comes to spiders. Like it is just a deep primal fear that I have. And something that I don't like about how most games handle spiders is I feel like they do it in the cheapest ways. Like you'll open a door and it jumps at you, or you can't see it on the ceiling and it falls on top of you. There was a scene in Bloodborne that really creeped me out, but I was like, I really kind of respect how you're doing this. You go into a room and you just see all the spiders hanging
Nightmare
there.
Mensa.
And you know.
It's like right near the end.
You know when
one of them's huge. Yeah.
I mean, it all freaked me out, man. But you go into that room and you know the minute you fall underneath them, they're gonna drop.
Yeah.
But it was a cool moment. The way that it was set up, it didn't go for the cheap scare. It made me be like, this sucks, and I have to go through it.
We've had conversations like, how did Ben get through?
How did you do that?
Yeah,
because we were on chat when that happened. I turned a corner. I was like, my God, how did Ben do it? Also, that's like the only big spider, which I think is really cool. That was weird. Was there somebody there?
It was
It's Joey. Joey likes Bloodborne. You heard us talking about Bloodborne.
But yeah, oh my God.
Yeah, I guess I was just trying to illustrate, there are a lot of ways that Bloodborne could go an easy route or a predictable route, and I feel like it just intentionally tries to construct things in a way that matter a little bit more.
The guys that pop out of boxes don't even scare me. It's just the random moments.
Those are the ones that
game
make me jump. I'll just go, whoop. All right. But then the fun thing is you get to a point where it's like Wu Wei, where it's like, guy jumps out of the box and you're just attacking without, like, you're startled, but you start attacking without even knowing.
Yeah.
And then by the time you process what's happened, you've already killed it. And you're like, oh, right, okay, that guy jumped out of me.
Can we talk about briefly the first time you go to Yarhagul when the bagmen take you there?
Oh,
how
God,
awesome is that, man?
Yeah.
When
That
you
was so creepy.
Yeah,
I just walked out of Cathedral Ward and all of a
I was
sudden this
yelling.
guy's just like, flap, and I'm like, whoa! and then it loads, and then it trolls you with the video. And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, it was.
And you're like
yelling.
way out of your depth. Like it's super hard. You shouldn't be there. You're like 20 levels too low. Like, oh man.
Yeah, they give you a really good feeling in that area of like, hey, you're not supposed to be in here.
Yeah.
You're really helpless here, and you need to
Yeah.
get the hell out of there.
That's such a cool pacing moment. Yeah, where it's just like run.
Feels like a jailbreak too, because
Yeah.
you're jailbreak.
You're like whole things like I gotta get to that lantern. By God.
And speaking of the world evolving, once after the blood moon appears and you go back to that area, those guys with the bags are dead.
Yeah.
They're like
Yeah.
off the corner, just like whoa.
That's the
took them out.
coolest thing. Like the fact, like the other Souls games, like you were saying before, like they evolve. Like Lautrec will do some stuff and like things change, but it just kind of happens. This has that obvious moon, like pale moon, and then the blood moon, and then like nighttime. And the progression there is so cool, just so naturally awesome, and it's part of the story in such a cool way. Like when the one reborn comes down and Yharnam like makes the blood moon turn, you're just like, whoa, oh man, super articulate I just was, but no, super awesome.
Should we talk about the ending?
Yes.
Which I've yet to experience. I hear the moon shows up and gives you presents.
Wait, which you haven't beat?
Semi.
I beat.
Oh yeah, you didn't do the.
I beat it and didn't know I was beating it.
ending.
I was like, oh, the wheelchair guy wants to fight. Okay, this is a cool little extra boss. And then
Yeah.
credits. I was like, oh, whoops.
Yeah, see, I don't know if I'm in the minority. I've talked to Ben a little bit about it, but with all the Souls games and now even Bloodborne, I feel like the ending is not. It just kind of lets me down. Like I know the story behind it is really cool. Like when the One Reborn comes down and you turn into a slug.
Well, that's the moon presence.
The moon presence, or even the one
You become a great old one, which is what everyone in the game has been trying to do the whole centuries.
It just always feels so abrupt in a 30-hour.
It's part of the philosophy, dog.
Hardcore game. It just ends.
So,
always.
It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to agree with Huber a little bit here. Not necessarily on the explicit ending itself, but I think Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1 and even Demon Souls to a certain extent, there was a build up to the ending. Like you get the thing, you fill it up, and then you go to the Kiln of the First Flame, and it definitely there was like this concluding act, and it felt like, okay, this is it. I'm going in. It's been building up to this. There definitely is a moment in Bloodborne, especially since it comes after the Wet Nurse, which is, in my opinion, the worst boss in the game, where it's like, oh, the building's on fire. That seems weird. Oh, okay, this guy wants to fight. Oh, okay, the game is over.
Yeah.
Like, so many people have had that sentiment that I feel more affirmed in this opinion, where it's like, I think they could have had a road to the ending,
like
a
new location funneling you to the end of the game.
Yeah.
Imagine if Castle Canehurst, for example, was the last place you went. You go up the steps, you enter the castle, and it's like, wow, I feel the end is coming.
Yeah.
And you go through all that, and then you fight the last boss.
Especially since you're right, like so many of the bosses do have sort of grand entrances, like going through that kind of like graveyard where things are a little bit on fire to the blood-starved beast.
Yeah.
You know, there are moments like that, whereas the ending, it's just like, oh, I guess that's it.
You beat it.
I mean, it is a rad fight, though.
It is a
fields
really
of flowers
cool
and stuff.
It is a really
And I mean,
cool fight.
in a way,
The boss.
because I don't disagree with you guys. I just don't know how they could have changed it really, because Nightmare of Mensis is an epic zone, one of the bigger ones and one of the more challenging ones and one of the most complicated ones. And yeah, I mean, Murgo's Wet Nurse is it's not hard. And that's
just
kind
have
of
a
let
path
down, but
in the dream that,
yeah,
Right.
that could
maybe
have been
flesh
more
that out
clear,
longer, make
yeah.
that go somewhere into a little bit.
Hard to say.
Yeah.
Did you know that the
That was the
doll
only
responds to
nitpick.
gestures?
I did not
Yes,
know
it's
that.
very cool.
What's the
Fun.
gift that you give her? What does that do?
It's just RP. I think it just makes her like remember.
I think she cries and she
She
gives
cries
you a gem.
and you get
Yeah.
you get the tear
Little
bloodstone,
just
but
a
by the
little
time you
context.
get it, it's pretty weak.
Oh.
That's actually another thing. I think the doll is a really cool part of that game. I think she's a cool character that she just has this look, and the way, like, again, the voice acting, it lends something to this character, and it's something that I don't think Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls 2 really had. I love the Maiden in Black and Demon Souls, and I sort of feel like the doll is a return to that, where
Is it the
it's
same
just,
voice actress?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just like I don't think the Emerald Herald was even close.
Seeing the other doll in the old workshop too, just put it all in. Gave it more context, gave her more meaning in life, and it was awesome.
I'm really pissed I had to look that up, the workshop, because I totally missed that on the first playthrough, and then I just saw that area. I was like, workshop, what's that?
Yeah.
I would have loved to stumble across that, to just
pretty
like
crazy.
open up that door and like, what's in here?
You know what's funny too is if you go back to having 0 insight, she stops moving again. She's just sitting there. You can still level up in the regular dream. She's just inanimate again.
Whoa.
You can still level up, but she doesn't move.
How do you level up? You just click on her? And...
You just click on her and it says inspect doll.
Makes
instead
you
of
wonder
talk.
if she's actually there.
Yeah, the whole insight is it interesting. Again, just like
Insight.
things that games are not exploring, like a something that you can get from different ways. You can consume items that'll use it. You can get it from discovering areas or boss fights. You can spend it to get items, and it also has this like stackable
But the
effect on the world.
The coolest thing with insight is it fits the story so well.
Oh yeah, even
because
a madman's knowledge, providing insight, providing
like
a
people
visions into the world. It all makes sense
that
thematically.
saw the eldritch truth and lost their damn minds. And like even functionality wise, having high insight lowers your beasthood and increases your frenzy. So the more insight you have, the more things are revealed in the game, the more crazy attacks people do, and the closer to going insane you are.
Bummed you can't turn into a beast.
You sort of do. I mean,
how does that? I never used that item.
Beast transformation. Beast transformation. Basically, the only way to really do it is if you have the beast claw, and you have in the transformed mode, it increases your.
You do not
beast
physically
mode.
transform.
Your arm does with beast claw. But you don't physically transform. All it does is increase your damage and decrease your defense.
The only thing that's upsetting about it, I would not care at all, but you read some of those items descriptions, and there's this strong wink and nod that you can transform into a beast, and you see Father Gascoigne do it. Maybe.
I think it was probably cut content.
Maybe.
They
I don't
probably
know.
were planning it.
Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised if they
With
put
the
it in
beast
later.
claw, pretty much beast transformation mode is not a thing unless you're using the beast claw. And so the intention, I think, is you're using beast claw and beast roar together, because you can do this combo with the Blade of Mercy. You just run your stamina down, beast roar till your stamina comes back up, and then run your stamina down again. You can stun lock someone, they can't do anything about it. It's even more insane with beast claw because it ups your beast mode. And you can change your beasthood. The higher your beasthood, the better your beast mode. You can change that with outfits too. But yeah, the combo there is beast claw, beast claw, beast claw, beast claw until you're out of stamina. Use beast roar to knock them over, and then you just keep attacking to keep your beast meter way high. Also, you can put rapid poison on it.
What if in the DLC there's a beast faction and then the hunters have to hunt them down?
Makes me think they.
And you can turn into a beast.
That'd be cool.
So you nailed it, Hubert. This is the topic that I want to talk about to wrap things up. DLC. Getting it, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm sure.
All of the Souls games have had it. Demon Souls didn't have DLC,
Demon
right?
Souls
With Dark Souls 1 and 2 did.
Yes.
And with Dark Souls, I'm pretty sure they said they weren't going to do it, and then they did.
How does that function in the old Souls games? Like, am I going to be able to jump into this new content on the
Negative.
same level that I am now?
Yes.
It's usually through a certain point in the game.
Okay.
So they will add an area, add a place to get to there. So if you're at that point in the game, or you have to get to that point in the game.
And unlocking it is, in Dark Souls 1 especially, unlocking it is insanely
Oh my God, I
complicated.
remember that.
You have to go and talk to Dusk of Ulasil, and then she
Yeah.
has to not die at a certain place. You have to free her from this golem, and then you have to go to a different place and kill this other golem to get this item, and then go back to where you first met her and get sucked into the DLC. So it's ridiculous.
It's much similar in Dark Souls 2.
Dark
Yeah,
Souls
Dark Souls
2,
2
you
is
just kind of beat a boss and it's there. But
So, as the DLC, methods have grown, it'll probably be easier in Bloodborne than it is.
You'll
in
probably
Bloodborne,
just
it'll
go
probably
through a
be
door somewhere.
another area or something.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's going to be something that we've already seen. Like an area we've already been to or something.
No way.
It'll
No,
be
it'll be
completely
brand new.
No, it'll be completely new.
They're
but
not
I
gonna
mean,
destiny
you'll go
it.
back to a place that's
Oh, yeah.
already in Bloodborne,
Yeah.
and there's maybe a door that's locked.
Oh, yeah, that's
or
how
something,
it'll be.
and then it's just
That
all of a
locked
sudden,
door.
Nope.
That's the bridge.
Oh, yeah.
with Cleric
That's the
Beast.
bridge by the Cleric Beast.
Okay.
I knew exactly
that
what you
locked
were.
door. I know there was one locked door that's in a room with a bunch of pots all around. It's not the one at the top of the tower by the Healing Church.
We're thinking the same one.
It's the
to
bridge.
It goes to where the Cleric Beast was.
They lock it
That one
off
doesn't
in the
have,
story.
with
Okay.
the treasure chest, and then to the immediate left of it is the door. Is that the one you're talking about?
It's so damn hard to explain where to go in this
I remember
game.
there's a lot of pots here.
There were so many
The room
guides that I read, and they're
before
like,
is pots.
just go in the forest and take a left. It's like, take a left. There's 8 lefts on
There's so
2
many
bridges
lefts.
and multiple levels.
Just
What are
take
you
all
talking
the
about?
lefts.
So I think we've given it its due, gentlemen. I think we've talked about Bloodborne a lot. I'm going to wrap it up by saying one of my favorite things about the game. I love that, Ian, 8 times throughout this conversation you've said the best thing about Bloodborne is
Everything is the
blah.
best thing about Bloodborne.
I actually did like the the loading times. Obviously, we always want load times to be better
They're
because we
fixed
want to
now.
get back to the game. Supposedly, yeah. I'm kind of curious to check that out tonight.
Shorter.
But I did think there was something comical, especially right after you died a horrible death, to just go to a screen that says Bloodborne.
Bloodborne.
They changed that too now.
Yeah, it has
it's-
item
It's
descriptions
item
now.
descriptions now.
Oh,
Like the old
That's
games.
so much better.
So
Yeah,
much better.
10.0 now.
Yeah.
so there you go. So hey, maybe after an update, we'll come back with another depths and check out all the new changes.
DLC whenever it comes out.
But there it is. And if you have watched this entire thing, then you are clearly a blood-starved beast of Bloodborne. you need more information.
We're gonna come in and hunt you.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
You did it.
Oh man.
All right, only one thing to do now. Go home and play Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thanks,
yeah.
gents.